Hi, folks. This is the mini lecture on delivery. This lecture is best viewed after you read the Memory and Delivery chapter in Crick, Rhetorical Public Speaking, 3rd edition. So please go ahead and read through that before you take a look at this lecture, which is going to build on the stuff in there. Okay? All right. So, first of all, a word about the way Crick's organizing this first part of the text according to the 5 canons of rhetoric. It's canons with one N in the middle, like the word canonical, which are means sort of a foundational text or framework or piece of a particular tradition, in this case, a rhetorical tradition. No, that's not the canons of rhetoric with 2 N's. We're not shooting anyone with cannons. So if you ever have cause to write the word, make sure you use the correct spelling. Okay? So the 5 canons of rhetoric were sort of the 5 basic areas starting in classical rhetoric in ancient Greece and later classical Rome. The 5 areas that you need to work through to craft and deliver a speech. Now, sort of conventionally, the 5 canons sort of begin with invention, but for the purposes of this course on public speaking, we're starting, and Crick starts as well, with delivery and memory. Right? So, delivery and memory are the parts, or are the canons that are most unique to oral speaking, public speaking itself. Now, a lot of the principles of invention, arrangement, and style are, as we'll see as we work through them, are things that you learn that can be applied in common both to oral, written, and other forms of rhetoric. But delivery and memory are really where the rubber meets the road as far as getting up in front of an audience or a camera, as the case may be, and actually delivering and giving your speech. So that's why we're starting here, delivery and memory. All right, so delivery, as I sort of just mentioned, is the most important canon for public speaking, but it's also the hardest to teach, right? You could do a great job with all the other canons. You could come up with great arguments, do great research, have it flawlessly arranged, brilliant stylistic rhetorical flourishes planned. But if you fumble the delivery, you're not going to do so well in your speech. This is the moment of truth when you actually get up there. I can teach you all the tricks, but you got to practice them. If you don't practice, you're not going to get delivery down, right? To use a sports metaphor, delivery is kind of the difference between being good at fantasy sports, understanding all the theory, being able to crunch the numbers, and on the other hand, actually being able to perform, to step up the line and sink the free throw when you actually have to. That's delivery, right? And that only comes through practice. How can you practice? Well, we're going to do a lot of activities in this course and in this module and other modules. But in general, the more you videotape and watch yourself, you will be surprised by the habits that you detect. I continue to be surprised when I videotape myself speaking. The things that I observe that I wouldn't have known I was doing otherwise. You'll notice your weight shifting, bobbing your head, folding your arms in bizarre fashions, all these things that can be sort of excised once you know that you're doing them. In addition to watching yourself, you're going to want to watch videos of other speakers, both good and bad. I'm supplying a few of those for you to look at and learn from. And you can learn from their habits. You can learn from the types of habits you want to emulate. And perhaps just as importantly, you can learn from the bad habits that you want to make sure that you do not reproduce yourself. So watch yourself speaking in detail. Don't just listen to the words, watch the body motions, watch the eye contact, all the things that Crick goes over in the chapter, and we're going to talk a little bit about here. So a few things I want to add to what Crick talks about. He mentions on page 53, the rostrum can be liberating for those who know it is a performance. For those who don't know, rostrum is essentially a public speaking platform, like a podium or a soapbox or something like that. That's an ancient Greek word for it. Usually we think about public speaking as this like anxiety-inducing, oppressive thing, but Crick kind of flips that on its head. If we understand that your public speaking persona is just a performance, it's not necessarily the real you, but it's a performance that you're putting on, you can gain a little bit of distance, maybe reduce your anxiety, and maybe have fun up there even, is kind of what he's getting at. So a couple of rules to go through. First, somebody may tell you before you go up to give a speech to go up there and just be yourself. I'm going to tell you that that's actually very bad advice, right? You don't want to be your everyday self, who you are with your friends and family when you're delivering a speech. That's just not going to work. It's not going to go over well, trust me. However, there's a little bit of a paradox here. You also don't want to try to be somebody else. You can't be totally phony and just go up there and act a different persona. The trick is to kind of mediate between those two things. Find the ideal orator version of yourself, right? Like when I get up in front of a course to teach, I put on my speaker Nick hat, right? I'm not the same guy I am at home with my family or out with my friends, but I have to find my teaching persona that's going to be ideal for that particular situation. And that's what you're going to have to do as speakers, both in this course for your speeches and going forward in your public speaking career. So read through Crick's Elements of Delivery. Read them again, make sure you understand them. The information in there is very good. I'm just going to add my own points of emphasis to kind of add to the text rather than repeat it here. Important things that people tend to forget about. Your rate of speaking. The vast majority of students have a tendency to speak much too quickly. When you get up in front of folks, you're going to be nervous. You're going to be worried about getting through your speech. And the result is you're going to speak about 3 to 4 times as quickly as you probably should. Slow down. So when you're up there, speak slower than you really want to, and then speak even slower than that, because the tendency is to speak way too quickly. Pauses. Most students forget to pause for emphasis in their speeches. Sometimes you're going to want to pause for a solid almost 2 seconds after a key point, impactful line, or joke. I've had students write a brilliant speech, deliver a funny joke, but they don't pause to let that joke or line or whatever it is sink into the audience to get the appropriate laugh or reaction or whatever you need. So you got to make sure that you do that. And finally, filler words, uhs and ums. Everybody uses them. I've probably done it a couple of times putting this little presentation together, but we're going to try our best not to. I'm not going to penalize you for 1 or 2, but if they start piling up, you're going to get points docked for that. So here's a few tricks to reduce them. Turn your voice pauses, which are the uhs and ums, into unvoiced pauses. Use a time when you would say or to just pause a second, collect yourself, and it could end up turning something that you would get docked points for something that's actually artful and benefits your speech, a pause for emphasis. Another trick, find your own signature filler word, one that sounds slightly more polished. Instead of say okay, right, and so on, get it, or what have you, right? And finally, make sure you rehearse and know your speech. The more you practice, the more you rehearse, the more you know your stuff, the less likely you are to fall back on those filler words. All right, so that concludes my little mini lesson on delivery. Go ahead and progress on to the lecture on memory and delivery styles and continue working your way through the module.